Hello and welcome to the Operations Management class. I am your instructor, Iqbal Rashidi. In this class, we will learn about operations management and how it relates to businesses and organization. We learn about the scope of operations management and different aspects of operation management related to businesses, such as forecasting, inventory management, quality control and quality management. We will learn about project management. We'll learn about analytical tools to help the manager how to organize and how to improve the output and effectiveness of an organization or businesses. For example, optimization and linear programming that we're going to learn here. So hope that you enjoy this journey and learn a lot. The learning objectives of the first chapter, the introduction chapter. In this chapter, we learn about the term definition of operations management, operations and operations management. And we will learn about three major functional sections or areas of any organization, whether it's a service organization or a product organization, manufacturing, and how these parts or sections interrelate. We also learn about similarities and differences between production and service operations, the two types of organization that there is. One is the one that produces or manufactures a product, and the other one is the one that provides a service. We also learn about the operations function and the nature of the operations manager's job. We also learn about two major aspects of process management, and we're going to take a look at the process view and system view of operations. We also learn about the key aspects of operation management decision making, and we will learn about some quantitative and analytical tools and techniques that applies in this scope. We will learn about a brief historical evolution of operations management. And also, we will learn about the current trends in business that would impact the operations management. What is today's operation management challenges and status? To learn about operations management, we first need to define operations. What is operations? Operation is the part of a business organization that is responsible for producing goods or providing services. So any process in any organization that is responsible somehow is related to doing the job, the purpose of the organization, which is either to produce a product or provide a service. That is operations. And now, operation management is just the management of systems or processes that create goods or provide the services. Goods versus services. Goods are physical objects. That includes materials. They are made of materials. Examples of goods are automobiles, computers, ovens, shampoos, your phone, or whatever device that you're using right now to watch this lecture. On the other hand, services are activities that provide some combination of time, location, or some sort of psychological or emotional values, such as aid travel, education, haircut, or a legal counsel. To learn about operations management, it would help if we learn about the basic functional areas of an organization. Any organization has three basic functional areas. As you can see from this chart, one of them is finance. Finance is the functional areas of an organization that deals with cost, revenues, and anything monetary. Another basic functional area in an organization is marketing, which deals with targeting customers, in attracting customers, and promoting the organization's output, whether it is a service or a product. So anything other than these two is operations. This is what we want to study in this class. Operations as the transformation process. If we view an organization as a system that has inputs and outputs, then in the middle there is a set or a chain of processes that convert and transform the input into the desired outputs for customers, whether it's the goods or services. So as you can see here in this chart, there is a flow of materials or goods from the inputs to next level processes, which are the conversion or transformation processes, and on the very end there is the output, the desired output. But also you can see here the dashed flow, which are actually feedbacks, informations. These are related to the managerial and control aspects of the organization. So basically, the managers take information and feedbacks, which are measurements or measures taken at different points in transformation process, to control and manage the whole organization and processes. So to control these processes, there is a comparison. There should be a comparison between the feedbacks that we take at each time against a set of known standards, benchmarks, to determine if the manager should take corrective action to improve or correct a process that needs to be corrected. When we talk about control, management, and decision making, we also need to talk about metrics and trade-offs. If you want to control an operation or you manage a system, you need to have a metric, a criteria. So based on that, you would need to evaluate the status of your system and organization and what decisions should you make about it. Examples are those metrics can be profits. Organizations and managers want to improve or maximize their profits. They want to decrease and minimize their cost. They want to improve their quality, improve their productivity. Other examples of these metrics are flexibility, the level of inventory, data schedule, and forecast accuracy, and many more. Also, besides metrics, we need to talk about trade-offs and also the analysis of trade-offs, because some of these metrics that we talked about, they are interrelated, or they actually are in an indirect relationship to each other, or opposite relationship to each other. So that means that improving one would actually causing the other one to go down or decrease the other one. So a trade-off is giving up of one thing in return for something else. For example, Carrying more inventory, that means increasing the level of your inventory, would be an expense, right? It would cost money. But it also would achieve a general level of customer service and also assurance that when the demand rise up, you wouldn't have to reject customers because you don't have the goods in the inventory. Operations as value-added processes. Value-added is the term used to describe the difference between the cost of inputs and the value or the price of outputs. So in the between, there has been a transformation process, an operation that has converted the input to output. So we use the term value-added to describe this process. The essence of the operation function is to add value to the inputs during this transformation process. So as you can see in this table, there are some examples for this transformation process. For example, the inputs can be anything. It can be land, it can be human or labor, such as physical labor, intellectual labor, a professor, a physician, etc. It can be capital, it can be raw materials, such as water, metals, woods, plastics, etc. Or it could be equipment, such as machineries, computers, trucks, tools, and etc. The transformation processes are things like cutting, drilling, transporting, teaching, farming, mixing, packing, coping, analyzing, developing, searching, researching, and etc. The output can be goods or it can be services. Goods such as houses, automobiles, clothing, computers, machines, mobile phones, etc. And services such as healthcare, entertainment, car repair, car service, education, etc. Manufacturing versus service. There are two types of different organizations or businesses. Those who manufacture or produce a product, a goods, and those who provide a service. Manufacturing and services are often different in terms of the processes, meaning what has been done in the transformation process, the conversion process. But they are kind of similar in terms of how those processes are performed or how the processes is done. To understand the differences and similarities between these two types of organization, we're going to use different points of comparison or characteristics to compare these head to head. As you can see in this table, we can use different characteristics such as the output or the type of output, customer contact, labor content, uniformity of input, measurement of productivity, and etc. So for example, let's take output. For the manufacturings, they manufacture goods, product. And goods and products are tangible. You can touch them, you can feel them, they are tangible. On the other hand, services are intangible. So that's a clear difference between these two. For customer contact, for manufacturing, the customer contact is low. The customer do not have to go to a manufacturing facility. They can just buy the final product in a retail store or in a store, a local store, or they can purchase it online. On the other hand, for services, the customer have to personally and physically go to the provider of that service. So the customer contact for services is high. In terms of labor content, for goods is low because goods can be standardized. They don't have to be a lot of variety for different kind of goods. They can be also mass produced. So it can be a lot of automatic processes and automation and also machineries used. On the other hand, for services, because it is done on customers, it is a process that is done on customers, and customers have different desirability, different customization, different demand. So that makes the labor content very high for services. And you can also compare with the other different characteristics such as the uniformity of inputs, measurements of productivity. You can see the differences between these goods and services as shown in this table. A scope of operations management. The scope of operations management ranges across the whole organization. The operations function include different activities that are mainly interrelated or somehow interrelated, such as forecasting, capacity planning, facility layout, scheduling, managing the inventory, project management, quality control and assurance, and many more. So in this course, we're going to talk about some of these interrelated activities. Process management. So we mentioned that we can think of operations as conversion or transformation processes. But what is a process? A process is one or more or a set of actions or activities that transforms and converts inputs into outputs. There are three categories of business processes. We have upper management processes in which these would govern the operations of the entire organization. And managing and governing these processes would have to be in accordance with the organization strategy, long term. Then we have the operational processes. These processes are core processes that make up the value stream, such as the purchasing processes or the production processes. And then on the very below, we have the third type processes, the supporting processes. The supporting processes support the core process. So an example of supporting processes is the accounting department or the accounting activities or the accounting processes or the information technology department of an organization. Managing a process to meet demand. There are three scenarios in terms of the supply part, which is the operational supply chain part of organization, and the sales and marketing part, which is demand. It could be that the supply, what an organization produces or provided, is more than the market demands. So this scenario is going to be wasteful and costly for the organization. The other scenario is that the supply, what the organization provides to the market, is less than the demand. So this scenario is loss of opportunity and also customer dissatisfaction because customers do not get the product or the service that they want from the organization. The third scenario, which is the ideal scenario, is that the supply is equal to the demand. Whatever the organization produces or provided is equal to the market demands. So this is an ideal scenario which is almost never going to happen and hard to achieve. But what an organization should do is to minimize the amount of disparity between supply and demand. Process variation. Normally, there are variation in the performance and output of every process in an organization. This variation can come from four different sources. One is the more variety of goods or services an organization offer, the more variety or variation the processes in that organization will have. So that means the greater the variety of goods or services, the greater the variation in the processes. Next is the structural variation in the demand. So this is in the market, not in an organization. So these variation generally can be predictable. They are predictable. They are also important for capacity planning, predicting the demand, the variation in demand, and based on that, you decide and plan the capacity of your production or offering of service. Next is the random variation. Random variation is a natural part of any process or any organization. So this natural variation that is present in all processes generally cannot be influenced by manager, but we do not or cannot eliminate them. We may be able to somehow minimize them, but we cannot eliminate them. And then we have assignable variation. Assignable variation comes from sources or causes that we can control. For example, there could be a machines or a labor that is causing that variation in a process. So we can manage or eliminate that variation. Variation can be disruptive to the operations and supply chain processes of an organization. They may result in additional costs, delays and shortages, poor quality, and inefficient work system. So it is important to understand the process variation, understand and figure out the sources of those variation, and try to manage and control them.